This interview had been conducted in January, and by the time it had been put out, she had already defended Biden over keeping the concentration camps open and had stopped using the concentration camps rhetoric. So if you remember last week, we were in Baltimore. I had to get the COVID booster in order to go into an academic conference that ACD was presenting at. Now, I did this. I had mild side effects that were gone after a day. And then I got sick as shit with a cold. I've been going downhill this whole week.
Thanks, Joe Biden.
Like, I am invincible when it comes to the deadly disease that...
Maybe don't say that. Peter is going to have COVID the next time we record.
I've said this so many times, though, and it's never happened.
Oh, my God. That's literally what you say in the fucking movie when the next scene is you having COVID.
It's actually very common to catch a cold after you get a vaccine. So vaccines lower your immunity.
And then having a kid who goes to preschool makes you...
That, too. Gooby got sick, and then I got sick. And I'm about to die. Thanks, COVID vaccine. But
vaccine refugee is now sick.
I'm no longer a vaccine refugee, but I am about to die of the common cold. Thanks, Obama. Tighten your buttholes. It's time for Pact. I'm the P, Peter Coffin. The lovely Miss Astronaut Cowboy Doctor is the ACD. Together we are Pact. Don't miss an episode. Like, comment, and subscribe. Leave us a glowing review on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever weird thing you use to listen to podcasts. We are a 5-star podcast.
Not 3, not 4, 5. I'm a 5-star man.
Back home. Join our Discord. We hang out there all the time. Chat. Do some other fun stuff you can access by becoming a patron, like movie night. There's also a reading group that thankfully other people are handling for. They're just reading stuff on their own, which is...
Oh, we should... I appreciate that, but we will eventually organize shit.
Oh, absolutely. We'll eventually get that together.
That will probably be a summer project.
I think so. There's also exclusive content, and you can also see content before anyone else by either becoming a member or a patron. So help us keep the lights on by becoming a patron at patreon.com/PactPod. That's PACDPOD. We've got fantastic Pact merch available as well. We showed it off last week. We actually sold a couple of the shirt with you in your comfy.
It's unbelievable.
Finally, tell your friends. We rely so big on word of mouth. We stream 7 p.m. Eastern every Sunday. Thank you so much for tuning in. There's an important lesson that came out of the mind of Pope Francis when he was on one.
As communicated through clickhole.com.
Yeah, it's a clickhole article, but the lesson is it's real. I want to get the exact wording of it.
Okay, you 100% have to type in clickhole. You can't just write Pope at it again to find. At it again. Pope Francis just tweeted a series of ambiguous quotes about not being able to trust your friends.
We're not gonna read all of Pope Francis's very real tweets that actually happened. We're gonna talk about the most important one out of the thread. Pope Francis said, "Lesson learned: forget what people say to your face. Look at their actions."
That article is so fucking funny.
It really is.
Which we cited 1 year ago. Even more than 1 year ago.
It was a little over a year ago when we were criticizing Sandy.
Yeah. Okay. So we had this interview that came out in March of last year. It took place on January 26th, a couple of months prior. And it was a DSA publication, their primary publication, interviewing AOC about, what a revolutionary leader she is and
how great she is and how great the DSA is.
Yeah. What a day in the life is as a progressive TikTok influencer. They don't phrase it that way. But
a socialist superstar was actually how they phrased it.
Yeah. What's it like being a socialist superstar in the United States bourgeoisie? Okay.
I don't even know what to say. Well, anyway, some audio leaked over the weekend.
Yeah. Chelsea Manning, whistleblower of war crimes, who was tortured for years by the state and then in turn sold out to the Democratic Party to shill it after being a hero.
Yeah, she went for a few years, just kind of like getting shit on every chance that could happen. And then at some point was like, fuck this.
It's devastating. I mean, I don't evaluate her negatively for that.
No, I don't either.
The traumatic effects on the brain of that kind of torture, like it makes a lot of sense that she would
absolutely
eventually go back
also
to that
prior
in like
to
a Stockholm syndrome kind of way.
Absolutely. Also prior to that torture, she was in the CIA.
Yeah.
She was a CIA whistleblower.
Right.
Just to be completely clear.
And now she's BFFs with Sandy, with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
She was BFFs with Sandy before, though.
Apparently.
For some reason.
She makes that very clear at the start of this clip.
But like that's not where her headspace is. Oh, so she's like playing that role. But like I understand that what's the distinction between somebody who thinks that they're and like this is where the argument comes in, and I've had this discussion with her as well, is like at what point are you pretending to be somebody else, or you are just that? Where, you know, like, are you LARPing as a sock dem, or are you at what point are you just a sock dem?
You had a discussion with her about that?
Sure.
Oh. There was a tweet.
Sorry, I talk to her often. Like, she's a friend of mine.
Oh, that's fine. Really?
There was
yeah, I've known her since before she was elected. Like, she's so reined in that, like, literally all she has is a Twitter account, and like other members of Congress, like, she's persona non grata.
To do the right thing, the thing that she thinks is best.
Should she leave? Should she leave?
Should she leave? No, I don't think. I don't think she should leave. It's
because that's what I think it boils down to, is like, and I've, you know, like, I don't, like, she's definitely thought about like just fucking up and
yeah,
just retiring. Like,
she said that she was, you know, considering that. There's, I don't doubt she went in there.
I would say honestly that probably
it kind
could
of goes.
be a good course of action. Honestly,
well, there's
being a congressperson, like the amount of shit that you have to.
But she's not even able to do any Congress stuff. They don't let her do anything. Like, that's how sad it is. That's how pointless it is.
What we were saying about, like, it's very difficult to push these people left and everything. It's with Alex. It's I don't want her to leave, but I think
she has no power.
Right. I know. I can tell
that her brand though is that.
Right.
Like, she could, like, and here's the thing, like, and again, like, what's the distinction? Like, you know, and it's sort of like it's like the philosophical question, and I ask this constantly, is like, if you're you know, what is the tangible distinction between pretending to be something that you aren't and acting as that and being that? Like, what is that? I'm not grifting. I mean what I say, and I do everything because I'm passionate and I care, and I don't and most people aren't. They're not that. I'm just like, I hope this is turning into Clubhouse. I hope.
No, you're fine.
I hope not.
Nobody's recording.
I know. Well, I mean, somebody is, but it's not anybody in this chat.
Yeah. That's fucked.
Well, we're gonna in 10 years. There's gonna be
10 years. It's gonna be leaked footage.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like Chelsea Manning. Would Alex get like in major trouble if like anyone found out?
She's already in trouble.
You know,
I was going to say,
right-wing media could do a lot with that shit, you know?
Is she seriously considering going after Chuck? There's a question.
No, fuck no. She would lose to fucking Gillibrand. She would lose to Schumer. She would lose to Cuomo, even in the middle of a scandal, for fuck's sake.
Okay.
Well,
it's been nice talking to you.
Spicy convo. But you know what? I appreciate it.
It's outside of my pay grade.
I don't have an agenda apart from, like, I want things to be better, and I want fucking people to, like, not be fucking suffering anymore. Yeah. I'm just fucking tired of it. And that's all. That's what drove me in 2010. Like, that was it. It was just like, I just want things to be better.
You want people to not suffer as much as they do.
and I want to play video games and I have to fucking worry anymore.
Everybody's just a gamer. That's all everything's about.
I just want to grill. I just want to game.
I just want to compete in esports.
I mean, to be fair, like that ending statement of her is somebody who's been fucking tortured for trying to do what's right. Being in this Stockholm Syndrome dynamic wherein she feels obligated to protect the American state, the bourgeois state, and drunkenly wishing that it were better.
Yeah.
And that this is not where her role ends in doing something.
So with that context, that audio recording, let's take a look back into the past.
Yeah, into the packed lore.
Where, like you said, a little over a year ago, we put out an episode on this interview with AOC that the DSA publication did, in which they characterize her as a socialist superstar and tell everybody that she's basically the best. And then she tells everybody that DSA is the best, and everybody comes, and that's it.
Yeah. And we covered it. And we actually watched that episode last night. And it's really funny because it was like old times, like old times.
When we were kind of just coming up with what we were doing, we were also in a relationship for probably about 3/4 of a year at that time.
Yeah, 6 to 9 months. Yeah. It was still, we were on a Zoom call.
Yeah. Yes.
And doing an episode. I had not started recovery yet, so I was a lot angrier too, which was funny to see.
Well, we were
I was a lot more irritable.
Yeah, we were talking about this also a little bit. I don't think that you're less angry. I think that you just handle it a lot better now.
Yeah, I communicate my emotions better.
Yeah.
But it was still funny to see, because this is an abhorrent interview.
My God.
It is challenging to get through.
And it's worse now.
It's way
like going back to it is so much more irritating.
It's way worse now.
We were irritated with it when we did this.
In context of what Chelsea Manning has said, which nobody purporting to have the ideals, the utopian socialist ideals that AOC claims to have, whether they're sincere or cynical, are neutralized within the operation of the bourgeois state of some place like the United States, which is in their imperial core. So we knew that. It's not that we were speculating that. We knew that. That's what theoretically follows. From framing her as an influencer, as a valuable socialist asset.
Talking about how she's relatable, which, sorry, no, that's not a requisite of governing.
No, from that to dichotomizing class consciousness and understanding of class against actually doing things for working families.
Yeah.
Pandering about class reductionism and class essentialism to the DSA audience. It is disgusting to further solidify her position as an actor who ensures that nothing can actually happen.
Yes, absolutely. A couple of very select things. So in terms of her being an influencer, they describe her as earnest, fun, relatable, and fierce, and made sure that everybody wants to know her life story. If you want to know her life story, check out Knock Down the House on Netflix, because, you know, the most anti-establishment people get Netflix, one of the biggest companies on the planet, to make a documentary about their life story while they're a junior congressperson. That on its own should be ringing alarm bells in people's like, this is clearly somebody who is useful for both the capitalists and the state. Why is she useful, though? That's what we're getting to.
Well, and just as a spoiler alert, it is because she is to dupe liberals with these progressive aesthetics who really want to feel morally good about how good they are and how much they care about people. She can make them feel like they're doing something while being an absolutely hollow husk of an actor in Congress.
Yeah.
I think one really fun part of this interview is that the first question asks her, what was your path to joining the DSA?
Could you please market the DSA for us?
So it's a joint advertisement for DSA AOC.
Yeah.
And she basically answers that question by saying she's been in all these spaces where there's a lot of talk and a lot of people talk about class. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm hearing all this rhetoric. I'm having discussions. When she saw the actual action that the DSA was doing.
Well, I want to quickly, the action DSA was doing, she said, I would see the DSA showing up providing real structural support at BLM
What
rallies.
does that mean?
Well, if it was communist, that would mean it's white people showing up and taking over in black spaces.
Yeah, sure. And she also says support for abolishing ICE. And then within the same year defends Biden's concentration camps and says that they're different.
Well, yeah. Well, this interview had been conducted in January, and by the time it had been put out, she had already defended Biden over keeping the concentration camps open and had stopped using the concentration camps rhetoric. She started calling them like detainment centers or something much less dire sounding than concentration camps. And she's like, well, it's clear that it's not good that Biden is doing it, but it's different in character. No, it's not.
And she's doing this.
Yeah, she kept doing
it. Unlicensed transfer centers. So, yeah, she starts talking about how there's this, this historical fissure in organizing where there are these class reductionists and white people talking about class discourse, and then these communities of color doing actual organizing.
Yeah, the white people are bad and just talk, and the people of color are good and do action. They just don't know anything about theory or class or anything. But they're good. They're just inherently good. Yeah, because they're noble savages, you see.
They have this essential part of their DNA that makes it so they can organize better.
It's woke segregation, woke racism. It's woke noble savage shit. We talked about it last fucking week.
Yeah. So in short, the DSA really does stuff, and that's why
they don't just sit around and talk about class all day.
And it's funny because, like, when she talks about what they actually do, she doesn't provide specific examples. She says at one point that for an event that they had, they provided free childcare, and that's what made it seem real for her. I could take my children into my fucking AA meeting. Who cares?
Yeah.
I guess the next thing that we can highlight from this is her belief in the dual approach to getting things done. Her community outreach and the electoralism. Because there is no Medicare for all without an active Congress. The thing is legislation after all.
Yeah, and then basically, like, the point here is, hey, I get that you're dissatisfied with things and we don't have Medicare for all. But the way we accomplish that is through the electoral system. Now, other stuff we do outside of the electoral system, but like the real things, the things that materially impact you, we have to do through the electoral system.
Yeah, and then when presented with when was forced the vote?
A month before she did this interview.
Okay, so this is after she
correct.
Did not force the vote for Medicare for all to
force the vote was mid-December. This was late January. It's January 28th. So it was a little over a month.
So after doing that and knowing the backlash that she got from not doing that, not even doing the most performative thing possible, she couldn't even do that because she had to keep her relationship strong with Mama Pelosi.
Yeah, Mama Bear.
So this strong proponent of a dual approach that she doesn't take. Best case scenario using this dual approach, we get incredible new members of Congress, or we win these open seats, and at worst, we get almost a radical change in the agenda of the incumbent that is presently there in that congressional seat.
Like, you have to understand what that argument means.
In so many ways, it's a win-win getting that internal traction.
It's not a win-win. We know it's not a win-win. Chelsea Manning told us outwardly that it's not a win-win.
Well, yeah, but here's the most offensive part. Some on the left have looked at Biden's record and his differences with the Bernie wing of the party, and they conclude that no progress is going to come out of the Biden administration. What's your view? Here's her answer. Should I read all of it?
Just read it.
Well, I think it's a really privileged critique. We're going to have to focus on solidarity with one another, developing our senses for good faith critique and bad faith critique. Because bad faith critique can destroy everything that we have built so swiftly. And we know this because it has in the past, and it's taken us so many decades to get to this point. We do not have the time or the luxury to entertain bad faith actors in our movement, but we also have to value solidarity with one another. For anyone who brings that up, we really have to ask ourselves, what is the message that you are sending to your Black and brown and undocumented members of your community, to your friends when you say nothing has changed? Perhaps not enough has changed, and this is not a semantic argument. Just the other night, we in a collective struggle were able to stop the deportations of critical members of our community, and that would not have happened under a Trump administration. For one thing, the fact that she assumes that all Black and brown people are satisfied with the Biden administration.
Let's talk about Chris Smalls for a minute.
And that it's only white people saying that nothing is getting done. That's so fucking stupid. She's playing into the exact DSA, morally masturbatory audience of radical liberals that say, oh, well, we center Black and brown experiences. These white people who have never talked to people of color in their lives.
Well, except for in the interview process to find ones that agree with their viewpoints.
Yeah, exactly.
They've talked to them there. Mm-hmm. Only there.
And again, there's the racial essentialism there in the generalization of...
Well, and this is the insane thing. When you do that, people think like, oh, you're saying reverse racism. No, it's racist against the Black and brown people.
Yeah.
The programs that we have done for the Black and brown people, which have given them so much they haven't, should be appreciated. That's as far as we're going to go. We're going to make things good for, a small portion of the Black bodies out there.
AOC's first vote in Congress ever was to give more money to ICE.
Which she literally characterizes
thank God
bad in this interview.
DSA provided real structural support for.
Yeah.
After telling us that we're allowed to win, we being
the Democrats,
but also socialist superstars. The last question that they had done. Millions of people are excited about you being in Congress and rooting for your success. But at the same time, no other figure has been targeted by the Fox News crowd quite like you have. Why do you think that they worked to make you such a boogeyman for the right wing? And what's it like to be on the receiving end of that? She says, I think they've done it because they know we are a threat. So, circling back to what we talked about in the beginning.
She's not even able to do any Congress stuff. They don't let her do anything. That's how sad it is. That's how pointless it is.
But I think
she has no power.
Right.
She's not a threat.
And we knew that. And we laughed at that in the same way when we first covered this. Now we have a recording where one of her close friends is
just
is drunkenly expressing concern.
Can I go ahead and quickly point out why no other figure has been targeted by the Fox News crowd quite like she has? What do Fox News and MSNBC do? Do they focus on class politics, real material distinctions between things? Or do they find people and issues that can create an argument and direct people to participate in that argument rather than do important things?
It's the last one.
It is. You are correct.
A threat to what? Not voting with Pelosi 1% of the time? She votes with Pelosi 98.8% of the time, according to her voting record.
That 1% does so much too.
Yeah.
I promise you the votes in that 1% are ones where it doesn't matter if she votes against them.
Oh, 100%.
Or like ones that like, all right, we know this isn't going to pass. And I get to act like I am radical because I resisted the Democrats, man.
This is a woman who, in this interview that we had previously covered, establishes and fancies herself as working class after going to Boston University.
Yeah.
Double majoring in international relations and economics, and interning for Senator Ted Kennedy. She studied abroad in Africa, funded by USAID, which is a CIA asset operation.
Yeah, specifically the Niamey International Development Program, which is entirely funded by USAID. which is a CIA front.
Which very shortly after that, in 2010, there was a U.S.-backed coup in Niger.
Really? So you're saying that ahead of regime change in these little countries that the U.S. doesn't do themselves, they fund through USAID a bunch of people to go over and normalize Western standards and drum up discontent. No, that's tinfoil hat stuff. George Soros is a conspiracy. George Soros is a conspiracy.
Not even the Open Society Foundation, just George Soros.
He's a conspiracy.
To believe that he's a real person is like believing in Santa Claus.
Color revolutions? What are you, Alex Jones?
Anyway.
There's a record of all of this shit, by the way. This isn't stuff that
It's not secret information. You can just go online.
You can find most of this USAID stuff and anything where Soros is involved, you can find on Open Society Foundation's website. They literally have a historical timeline of, in Soros's own words, the Soros empire being created.
He says that?
As the empire collapsed, I moved in and picked up the pieces. So this is how the Soros empire was replacing the Soviet empire.
Anyway, she collaborated after college with two tech entrepreneurs and venture capitalists, founding a book publishing company and serving as a lead educational strategist at a major corporation. Very important for building her resume for her bartending career. That was, I think, less than a year long. You know how Pete Buttigieg says he was like in Afghanistan or whatever?
Yeah.
That's what AOC's bartending thing is like.
Her bartending tour of duty was very short.
Exactly.
Just basically
lobbied for double tax breaks for startups. Ended up giving a lot of money she raised from socialists to fellow Democrats with military and intelligence backgrounds. That's completely incompatible with the self-made Latino woman of color in U.S. Congress. It's just fucking bullshit. Self-made from poverty, from her petty bourgeois dad. Like, fuck you.
It's the same thing as these, like, billionaire heirs claiming to be self-made.
Yeah, it's like Peter Buffett saying, I'm not a billionaire, my dad's a billionaire.
Well, here's another example. Like Kylie Jenner, who claimed to be a self-made billionaire. No. And here's the thing. We're also not asserting that she's wrong because she had money. We're saying she said that she was poor and working class, and that's clearly not the case. Because in order to get into a big school like that, even with scholarships, you have to have resources. You have to understand that system. You can't just do it. If you don't know anything about getting into a school, you have to have a connection that will help you do it. Or you have to have a connection that will teach you how to do it. Or like there are a number of things that bar people from getting into schools, not because they're, X race or even X income level. It has to do with social connections. If you're a down and out fucking bourgeoisie, fail son, you still know a bunch of bourgeoisie.
And I guess to conclude, why is it important that Chelsea Manning has now a leaked audio clip corroborating that AOC is useless in Congress?
So here's the thing. You and I, we do historical materialism. We do dialectical materialism. We look at the world as a series of connected systems that are in flux, and we do what we can to understand those systems. Our criticisms are not based on personalities and what people say. And really, frankly, in terms of what Chelsea Manning says about AOC here, it's stuff we've been saying for years now.
Yeah.
It's not new. It's not a revelation, but it's Chelsea Manning saying it. And people out there see the stuff that we say and they say, well, they don't have an insider. They don't know AOC. They don't know what they're talking about. It's a personality based argument that they need to see that what we're saying is true.
Yeah.
And now they have it. In the meantime, we've been saying this shit all along. If you want to accomplish the things that these people claim they will help you accomplish, you need to just walk the fuck away, because they aren't going to. They can't. Not only do they not have any power, but there's a high likelihood that they don't want to accomplish it. They don't have a position if it's accomplished. We said this stuff based on systemic critique, based on the conditions that were being created, the actions she was engaging in, and the relationships she was cultivating. That's what we based our critique on last year. That's what I've based my critique on her for years now. We're telling you that you can't rely on the electoral system. You can't rely on politicians. You can't rely on personalities. You can't rely on any of these people, because there's a large structure that they operate under. And that structure is dictating the action she takes. She has no agency of her own. She has no power to propose anything. And even when she could do something aesthetic, like force the vote, she couldn't. But it's time to stop waiting for like Chelsea Manning to come out with information for you. Like, we can understand the conditions of the world as it is right now and make decent criticisms that apparently pan out to be true. You can use the context when the DSA ultimately spends all of its time just basically telling people to vote for Democrats, and that it's radical to do that, because there's even a part of the fucking thing where they're like, even if we don't get our candidates in, we'll at least move the position of the incumbent. Fuck you.
Yeah, we moved Biden left really well.
I am so fucking tired of the AOC fucking stands who will protect this person no matter what she says, no matter what she does, no matter who she's connected with, no matter what her friends say about her. They'll just fucking come out and say, oh, well, you guys are just jealous, or sources, you got sources for that. Yeah. She hasn't done anything. She's voted with Nancy Pelosi 98.8% of the time. And it doesn't matter if she did that or didn't do that, because she's one person who is inside of a system that is completely wired to stop any action that contradicts the primary course that it is currently on, which is capitalist imperialism. That's the criticism. It has nothing to do with AOC. The reason we have to talk about AOC is because so many fucking people need to hear the personal version of it in order to even give it the time of day.
And that's it for Packed. Thanks again for watching or listening. I'm Peter. This is Miss Astronaut Cowboy Doctor. To help us out, click like, follow, subscribe, join our Discord, leave us 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. To support us, become a patron at patreon.com/packpod. That's PACDPOD. Thanks so much. Come back next week.